Hey everyone, welcome to Mile High Speed RC. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this custom 32 pitch spool gear to unlock the potential of your Arrma 3S BLX vehicles. Well, what is the potential of your Arrma Typhon car? Well, when you bought it, it came with 57 tooth slipper clutch and a 15 tooth pinion gear. In my testing, that allowed me to get to about 49.8 miles an hour, so let's call it 50 on the box. Arrma says this car will go 50 plus, so some truth in advertising there. I think that's pretty darn close. The next thing I did was take that out and put a 20 tooth in. That jumped me 10 miles an hour in an instant, got me right up to 59.4 miles an hour, so let's call it 60 with a 20 tooth. And then I finally bumped all the way up as far as you can go, which is a 26 tooth pinion. The motor mount and the case here maxes out at 26. So this might be where a lot of you have ended your search for speed. My testing, this gets you around 65, 66 miles an hour pretty consistently. So that's where our slipper clutch comes in. So when you put this in this case we're going all the way to 44 teeth with a 26 tooth. I've been able to consistently hit about 75 miles an hour doing this. I jumped that up finally to a 31 tooth. This got me just short of 80 miles an hour, and there is enough room in this compartment using this configuration to go all the way to 34 teeth. But the load here on the electronics didn't gain me any speed. Actually, the low voltage was constantly clipping here. So basically you can get right up close to 80 miles an hour with your standard electronics on 3S doing this. If you want to swap your electronics and go, this is a 3670 130 amp ESC, I can go to 4S. Took the car up into the 90s, mid 90s doing this. If anyone has hit the triple digits with the plastic drivetrain on this car, let me know in the comments. I'd sure like to know how the drivetrain holds up under those kind of speeds. Nobody likes warnings. This hobby's supposed to be fun. You're doing all this speed run stuff for fun, so nobody likes to hear disclaimers and warnings, but I gotta give one here, guys. When you are making modifications like this, if you're new to the hobby or you're new to speed runs, these kind of combinations of gearing are going to put a serious load on your electronics, especially if you're sticking to the standard stock electronics. This video is not about what happens there, what low voltage drop under load is, ESC clipping, all that kind of stuff. That could be another video for another time. For now, let's just say this is putting a serious load on your electronics and you are putting them at risk, so be careful. All right, so what do you need in order to build yourself one of these? Well, this is a pretty simple, easy do-it-yourself project. The first thing you're going to need is $10. The $10 you're going to be buying Kimbrough Racing 32 pitch spool gears. This is a 50. Here's a 44. Kimbrough has a lot of offerings in their 32 pitch. They go up in two teeth increments. The 44 tooth is the lowest you're going to be able to go, because you will see that the slipper hubs and slipper plates are, after this, they start encroaching into the teeth a little bit. So 44 tooth is the lowest, and then from there you can go in 2 teeth increments all the way up, as many as you need. You will also be needing a nail. I'll explain that in a minute. And a drill and a drill bit. That's about all you need. And a washer. That's about all you need to create one of these. You'll see another spur gear here. This is a Mod 1 Traxxas 38 tooth. And there are a lot of videos online of how to create a custom spool using one of these. Those videos are great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking your car to one mod. So you might ask, why the heck make a video and take all the time to do one of these? Why don't I just do that? Well, there's 4 reasons I think this is a I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's better. It's just easier, simpler, and it works better for me. All right, reason number one you may want to stick with 32 pitch is a pretty simple one. Your car came with 0.8 mod gears. So if you want to continue to use the pinion gears that came with your car, or you already had some 32 pitch or 0.8 mod gears laying around, this allows you to stick with that. Is 0.8 mod compatible with 32 pitch? My experience is it is, with one caveat. One of those two gears has to be plastic. The reason is 0.8 mod and 32 pitch are not exactly the same. So there is a tiny bit of wear that's going to happen on the teeth. And the steel is going to do that wear into the plastic. And it's going to happen instantaneously on your first run within the first 20 seconds. And it's going to wear that plastic just a little bit. And then after that, they're going to mesh perfectly from then on. These spur gears I've used for countless speed runs under heavy loading, and the teeth look great, but there is a little tiny bit of wear on there that came in. You can't really notice it, but it happened right away. If you use steel on steel doing this, though, the difference is that same amount of wear is still there. It's a tiny, tiny bit. But when you're rubbing steel on steel, you are creating heat. And heat starts to melt and soften the teeth a little bit. And the more they melt, the more they soften, the less that kind of exaggerates that wear. And it just kind of grows and grows and grows. And eventually it does not mesh any longer, and you're going to have a problem. So that has been my experience. Yes, you can use 0.8 mod and 32 pitch interchangeably as long as one of those gears is plastic. All right, reason number two you want to stick with 32 pitch possibly is that 32 pitch is smaller than 1 mod. So we're looking at a 44 tooth here and a 38 tooth 1 mod, and you will see that the 44 tooth is smaller than the 38 1 mod. Not a big deal there. Why does that matter? Well, it just allows you more room in this compartment when you have smaller teeth. And so that smaller pitch just allows you to play with more gear ratios simply because you've got more room in this compartment. Right. Reason number three is you will notice, looking at these two gears, that the center diameter hole that comes through these gears is different. This is larger, this is smaller. It just so happens that on the Kimbrough Racing products, that diameter hole is almost exactly matched to the slipper hubs that come with your car. Meaning when you bring this down onto your car, it's almost an exact match, and it's self-centering. I have got a couple of these where I couldn't get it on there. It was so tight, and I had to bore this hole just the tiniest little bit. If you have to do that, do it really small increments, because you want it to be tight and you want it to fit exactly, because that's self-centering. So what do I mean by self-centering? Well, this one's a little bigger. The diameter of that hole is a little bigger. If this is what basically, this is kind of an exaggeration of what happens, is you have to get this thing exactly lined up centered, or you get an egg oval shaped spool gear and you get this action, and that's obviously really bad at high speed. That'll shred your gears and cause all kinds of problems. Now, the reason people are using this 38 tooth in the videos is because this one is self-centering. It just happens that this diameter on the outside exactly matches the diameter of these slipper plates. So this one comes self-centering, but you're kind of locked into the 38 tooth. If you change the teeth, obviously the size of the spur gear changes, and all of a sudden now that slipper clutch doesn't fit that diameter perfectly, and you've got to do the centering yourself because the diameter of the center hole isn't going to do it for you. And reason number four, and we're saving the best for last and probably the most important, which is ease of build and saving your components, not damaging them, allowing you to flip them back into use in your standard slipper clutch. So when you watch the 1 mod videos, what you're going to do is you have to go and buy 2 more slipper hubs, and you are going to have to I'm going to say damage them. You're not really damaging them, but you're altering them to a point they can't be returned to use in your standard 57-2 slipper, because you're going to have to saw metal off the inside of these slipper hubs. And some people don't have the tools for that. Some people aren't handy enough to be doing that. Some people just don't want to do it. And some people just don't want to spend an additional $20 on 2 new plates. All those are reasons I understand. Honestly, it's not hard to make that modification, but if that somehow throws you off, I can understand that. And once you've done that modification, you cannot use those hubs back into your original slipper plate. Doing the modifications we're going to do is very simple. The only thing we're doing to modify these components is we're going to drill holes in them and pin them. But those 2 holes do not prohibit you from putting them straight back into your slipper pad, so you can interchange your car between being a basher and having the slipper plates intact, and a spool gear for your speed runs. The 2 holes make 0 difference to how the slipper is going to perform. The only catch is, after you've drilled through these, you want to sand the inside of them back very smooth. Otherwise, if they have a little bit of burr on the end, they're going to prematurely wear your slipper pads. But if you sand them smooth, you can drop them right back into use. All right, so let's get into the guts of what we did, the actual physical work that you're going to have to put in to get this done. As noted, very simple. What you are going to be doing is drilling through this assembly and then pinning it in order to lock it down and make a spool. So if you're newer to the hobby and you're unfamiliar about the difference between the term spool and a slipper clutch, essentially you're using a slipper clutch to take load off your drivetrain when you're bashing, when you're jumping, when you're hitting rocks, when you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff bashing. These slipper plates slip around the spur gear, and that allows your drivetrain, all that load, to come off your drivetrain. Well, when you're going for speed runs, you don't have that problem, and you want all the power transferred to your wheels, so you're locking this in place. Just picture this as a one-piece unit. There is no slide, there is no slip. So we're pinning it, and what do you pin it with after you've created these holes? Well, plenty of options. The reason I mentioned you need a nail is the first thing you can do is get a nail and clip it and make steel pins. So I've been using 5D nails. Just trim them up and you're left with, I've got a few components laying around here that you can see, you're left with a steel pin. You can use other things. You can use screws and trim your screws down if you've got a 3mm screw. Those work pretty good. I've been using plastic, is actually the best thing I've found. This is just modeling stuff off a typical model, and the things that you break away, the tabs that are left, or even the perimeter stuff, can be used great as pins. This is strong enough, and the advantage of plastic is that it kind of wedges itself in there better. All right, let's take this thing completely apart, show you the last piece of the equation, which is actually hiding inside of here. So we'll pop these guys off, and we'll get after that tensioning nut that's inside of there, your slipper clutch tensioning nut, which is basically used to hold. You're going to tighten it all the way down for your spool, because you're holding the whole assembly together. It's smashing it, holding it that way. The pins are simply holding rotationally this way. So let's get after that nut. It's probably the longest, it's the longest screw on your car, so it takes a while to get out of here. You'll notice this is broken. That's not from anything having to do with this spool gear build. That's just me being an idiot, bashing my car a little too hard, and I broke it. But that's what kind of gave me the impetus to do this. I figured I broke it, I might as well try and build a spool out of it. And that worked out pretty well. So the lesson is, breaking stuff is never great, but you can actually learn from it and advance your car from it in the end if you want. So there's your, that's all the stuff that comes out with your tensioning nut. And we'll take this off, and you'll see the last piece of the equation there, which is a washer. So why is there why do we have to put a washer here? I'm going to take it out to show you why. So Kimbrough racing products are thinner than what comes with your car or the Traxxas product you may use to go to one mod. Because it's thinner, it creates a lip on that slipper hub. It's a pretty substantial lip, actually. And so if I simply just come and mash this down now, all I'm doing is putting this metal and compressing it against this metal, and there is room left for that slipper, or for that spur gear, to wander back and forth, and eventually it's going to wander and get off kilter, and you want to see your teeth go up in flames in a hurry quick, that'll do it. So what we're doing is adding a washer to the equation that just simply flushes that surface out, so that now when I bring on this second piece, I'm compressing the whole thing together without any gaps in the system and holding the spur gear tight. You'll notice that my washer, I had to route a little bit out of that washer in order to get my pins to clear. That's just because this is just the washer I had laying around. I am sure you can find a washer with a different diameter or a different profile here that allows you to skip that step of having to route a piece of metal if that intimidates you in any way. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope it helps you unlock the speed of your car and increases your enjoyment of this hobby and your, well, I was going to say Typhon product, but this will work on any 3S BLX Arrma system.